Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Jenny from Polly's Paper Studio, and today we're creating a very non-traditional Halloween card. This has grays and yellows, which is not what you think of with Halloween, but because this vintage image was so beautiful, I pulled the color plan from that, and I've added lots of beautiful grays here and some fun details that are very holiday inspired. So let's make this together. So I'm just starting with a standard side card base. This is going to be 6 by 6, and then I've added a layer of gray cardstock that I've cut down 1/8 of an inch so that it would become a border. So I want to begin working on the first layer, and I generally do not mat and layer in the same color, but you'll see why in a second. What I wanted to do is add foam to the back so that we're already building up dimension. This is also useful to me because I'm going to add a paper clip here, and I don't want the bulk of that clip to cause the next layer to have a bump on it. So this is going to be the size of the next layer up, and I'm just going to cover it completely. There won't be any borders left. I'm starting with this gray with the typography on it, and because we're using a sort of different color scheme for a Halloween card, I thought it would be fun to use a similar thing that we do often for our cards, is to put typography in, but so now the background is gray instead of white, and that will just be sort of a not so contrasting tonal element to the bottom. And then I want to cover it with this chevron. Like I said, I'm going all the way to the corner. I've got a layer of that gray cardstock here as well, and that will keep the busy patterns from looking messy on the card and help to keep them separate. So now what we've got is the whole next layer is popped up, and I can add the sentiment at the top and then put the clip on, and then we can add it to the card and continue working. So this is just a very sweet little Halloween-y sentiment. I know I'm clipping it on, but just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of adhesive on the back so that I know it won't accidentally come undone. And then it makes sense to me that the clip would go here, and I also like the smaller side showing. So I've got that notched out well enough to accommodate that clip depth without it creating a bump. So I'm just going to add this now to the top of the card. I do like to use the good wet adhesive for foam, but in this instance I'm using a nice thick score tape, and I'm confident that that is going to be a secure hold. So like I said, that is going to act as my border, the first gray panel of cardstock, and now you can see that this is already going to be quite thick. If you like a one-layer card, then I'm not sure this is going to be the project for you, but if you like lots of layers like I do, and I really think these make very cute Halloween decor items. Once you've enjoyed the sentiment inside, you can display it with your seasonal decor. The next element is a bit different for me, and I had hoped that this would be kind of a graphic sort of adding the large chunky shapes to the top of the card. I'm not sure when I get it all done that it shows very much, but I do like all the layering of the patterns. So basically what I did was I used a circle die, and I cut 2 different sizes. So this was a nesting set, and I chose one larger and one smaller, and then I also alternated the patterns of paper. I attached them where they connected, and then one more layer of that foam so that the whole thing can be popped up, and that's going to continue to build the depth and dimension for this card. So I've got that on with some score tape again, and I'm just going to place that here. Now you can see where my original thought would be that these would be big graphic circles, and that would be a different than layering on a doily, which is what I really usually do. So this is going to be mostly hidden, but it will still show and it will be very nicely detailed. So I did have this on a different project. It's just the bottom of a vintagey calendar, and I think that will be really cute right here so that it will show on the bottom. And then I'm going to also tuck in a tag. Now I've got a eyelet already included here, and where I would normally go for twine, I just really liked that silver center on that ribbon, so I thought it would be small enough. It's quite a narrow ribbon, so I looped it and pulled it through to secure it. Now because we've added foam to this layer, I've just got a little foam here, and the top of the tag will attach to the paper, but I don't want this portion to fall. So I added more foam to that, and that will continue to keep the next level level. So I'm just going to tuck that in right there. Now I've also got a background image. This is just one I've created on the computer, and I really like that it has a very strong border, but it isn't busy in the middle. So when I begin to add the other layers, it's not going to compete with this background. I adhered it to thick cardstock. It's 110 pound. And then I added more of that support foam on the corner that will fall on this side. So now we're going to continue to keep everything from getting droopy on any side. It's all really well supported. So here is where I'm going to add the focal image, which is this beautiful vintagey girl. I think she looks a little bit like a gypsy fortune teller, and she has a pumpkin and an owl and a mirror, and like I said, this is a not traditional color scheme, but I really like that it still has a lot of Halloween detail, so you're definitely sure that it's a Halloween holiday image. I'm going to put this here, and I'm keeping it sort of below the top of that border so that I don't lose that detail. For the flower arrangement, I have my Little Birdie Crafts flowers, and then I've added them to some die cut leaves. I went back to that gray cardstock because I want it all to work together, and then I gave them a bit of a shape and added a bit of stickle detail to the end so that it would have, you know, kind of a more fancier look. Then I tucked in some loopy bows. These are baker's twine, and it's in the oyster color. I'm using ribbon trims from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I'll link that in the description below. If you're interested in seeing how I make my arrangements off the project, I will leave a link to a video that we have done in our flower series, and that explains how and why I make my flower arrangements before I add them to my project. So this is all in grays again, but the leaves are similar in the color of this sort of bronzy and green middle of this flower, so I know that was going to go well together. And I have just arranged these so that it will show right here. So now you're still going to see the pattern on the bottom one, but the leaves are not going to interfere with the sentiment. And I'm just going to add this as a full unit now to my card with hot glue. Okay, so I've got that in place, and I'm just holding it down until that glue sets up because I want it to be very secure. So now what I want to do is bring in some of the details that are sort of in keeping with this theme. So I've got a moon here, so I'm bringing in a moon charm. This is a sweet little acrylic moon charm. And then I've got an owl here, so I'm bringing in this guy who is very dimensional. This is a lovely charm. And so I think that goes with the image here very well, and they're just going to dangle underneath a bow. I'm going back to that silver and gray again because I want it all to coordinate, so I will add those next with more of that hot glue. Okay, so I've done that part off camera because I had to stick my fingers in the hot glue and I didn't want to make you guys suffer through that. So I've just added those strings here to the back of the bow, and you can see how that all coordinates very nicely now, and I'm going to add it right here on the top so that I don't hide any of those good details. Okay, now that I'm seeing this in place, I think that I do want to go back in and trim the tail of that ribbon because I don't want to hide my little owl. I've used a bit of stickles on that vintage image as well, just to bring out the details. And now that corner is done. How cute is that? I want to also crop this ribbon a little because it's hanging off the edge. Make sure you do that at an angle because you don't want them to fray. This is a nice substitute, I think, for the twine. And it brings a little sparkle over here. Okay, last but not least, I found these buttons in that lovely jar that I got from the antique shop. These are really sort of grungy and silvery. They're not really gray, but they're a little, this one I think might be oyster shell because it has that sort of opalescent look to it. So I'm going to add these to the bottom, alternating the size. And I think that looks good. So I'm just going to secure those down using the hot glue again, and those will stick because I've got the twine added through the holes. So that is it for our non-traditional Halloween card that we created with lots of trims from really reasonable ribbon and flowers from Little Birdie Crafts. If you enjoyed this project, make sure to give me a like, leave me a comment, and if you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye!